Welcome to the Sweat Simple podcast. I'm Brooks, and I'm an online fitness, nutrition, and mindset coach who's here to help you learn how to eat and exercise for real life, not just those perfect moments. Because let's be real, there is a lot of conflicting information online, and it can be hard to know what's legit and who to trust. In every episode, I'll be sharing the science and psychology behind health, fitness, and long-lasting behavior change, but I'll also be sharing practical, real-life application because all of the best info in the world only matters if you can apply it to your real life. So grab a coffee, water, glass of wine, or lace up your walking shoes, and let's dive in. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Sweat Simple podcast. Today, we are talking about one of my favorite topics. We are nerding out a little bit on some of the deeper science behind stress, self-control, fat loss, all the good stuff. I love this so much that I have hosted multiple workshops on stress and self-control for my clients, how it all plays a role into fat loss. Because for many of us, that is when things kind of, for lack of a better term, go to shit. And I'm sure you can relate to that feeling. Like the second you're stressed, you just can't seem to get it together. Like I hear all the time from women, I'm so good, I'm crushing it, I'm sticking to my meal plan, but the second I get stressed, I can't stop snacking. I just need that immediate relief. I'm turning to takeout because I'm so overwhelmed. I can't even think about cooking, and I'm craving sweets like nobody's business. If you're feeling any of those feelings, I just want you to know that you are not alone. That is so common. And there's multiple different reasons why this is happening. The actual science is that stress and self-control, we really think about them as enemies in our brain. So your prefrontal cortex is in charge of self-control, impulse regulation, decision-making. But when we're stressed, when we're in that fight or flight mode, it becomes near impossible for our prefrontal cortex to activate. So we basically can't really utilize self-control, impulse regulation, or decision-making when we're in that really heightened emotional state. And this is true whether it's stress or whether it's anxiety or whether it's some other really heightened emotion. It feels really hard to have self-control and to stick to our original plan. So it makes sense that when we're feeling really stressed and when we're feeling really activated, all of a sudden you don't care that you're halfway through a bag of chips because your impulse regulation is gone. Your self-control is gone. It feels really hard to quote unquote control yourself. That is normal. It's science. On top of it too, most of us have developed coping mechanisms to deal with stress that really aren't supportive of our goals. So one, we're dealing with the actual thing that's happening in our brain where it feels harder to utilize self-control. And then two, most of the coping mechanisms that we've developed as humans over time, as people, I should say, those are the same thing. I don't know why I just corrected myself there, but I should, as individuals, because this isn't something all humans do. It's just something we sometimes do. We've developed these coping mechanisms that aren't supportive of overall healthy eating, let's say. So a lot of times when we're stressed, when we're activated, when we're looking for some sort of quick, immediate relief because we don't want to feel those emotions, we turn to alcohol or we turn to food. So we're working against the actual biology that's happening in our brain. And then we're also working against the coping mechanisms that we've developed with food or alcohol and the things we've created automatic patterns around. So it can feel like when we're stressed, we just really have no shot at this because we're really fighting an uphill battle. And right now, if your main method when you get stressed is to immediately turn to food or alcohol, you are fighting an uphill battle. I'm just going to say it super bluntly. No amount of tracking calories, no amount of I just need to hold myself more accountable this week, no amount of I just need to try harder, that's not going to help you in these situations. And that's why right now fat loss feels really, really hard, especially if you're under constant stress. And especially if you're someone who just keeps turning back to nutrition plans, just keeps turning back to workout plans, that's not cutting it anymore. That is not going to work. Instead, though, there is something we can do. With my one-on-one coaching clients, I take a two-pronged approach. And this is something that you can start to apply too. And I always tell my clients, you are the boss of your own life. You know what's going to work best for you. So tell me which of these you think would be most helpful to start with. Sometimes my clients feel like they have the bandwidth for both. Sometimes it's one. Sometimes we start with one and then add the other in. So as I'm going through these, two different approaches, really put the filter on of your life. We don't have to do both of these things at once. We don't have to do these things ever. These are just some options. So the two prongs are one, lower stress overall so that these instances when we're feeling really stressed are popping up less and less. But then two, develop tools to use in these moments when we are feeling really stressed or activated. So one, right out of the gate, just kind of sit and think about how does that make you feel? Do you feel like you do need to lower your stress overall because this is something that's happening all of the time? Um, or do you feel like you really just need a couple of tools to use in these moments when you're feeling more stressed? Or do you need both? Can you work on both? Do you feel like you have the bandwidth to do both? I will say a lot of my clients up front don't really feel like they have the bandwidth to immediately work on some of these like overall stress management techniques. And reason being is that when you already are really, really stressed, uh, saying, "Oh, I need to add some stress management techniques," and that can feel like another thing on your plate. So I fully understand if that doesn't feel realistic. These things can work together though. Like some of the tools that we could use in the example, that we could use in these moments could also lower our overall stress. But if we're going with that first approach, which is, okay, we want to lower stress overall, ideally we would be attacking the stress at the source. So if the stress is, work and work is so overwhelming, in a perfect world, we'd love to have conversations with our bosses and say, hey, how can we lighten our workload? Like, what can this look like? I'm fully aware that that is just not possible. I used to work in the corporate world. I know that sometimes these things that are causing us stress aren't going to go away. So then it comes down to some stress management techniques. Are there things that we could do to feel a little bit more regulated? Could we go for a walk? Walking can be great for reducing stress. Same with exercise in general. Can we practice some breathing techniques like box breathing or some sort of 5-minute meditation? Could we go to a yoga class? Think about some things in the past that have maybe allowed you to feel more relaxed or allowed you to feel a bit more regulated? And how can we start being more intentional about doing those things? And if you don't have anything right now, like you've never tried any of these things, just start trying them and see if any of them pop up and make you feel better. There's some that are going to be a little bit higher effort, like going for a walk, getting a workout in, probably going to be more effective long term as well, but higher effort. And then there's like small things that you could do in the moment, like some of that box breathing, even like the shakeout method, like shaking out your whole body, can be a good central nervous system reset. So think about things like that, both like high effort and then also low effort. All right. And then the second piece is developing tools to use in these moments. So if we're not able to lower and reduce our overall stress or, manage it so that these instances are coming up less and less, we really want to make sure that we have some tools to use in these moments, specifically tools that are not food or alcohol, if that's what we're using right now. And this is what I just helped one of my one-on-one coaching clients with this. She was using a glass of wine every night to relax. That was kind of her time to chill. That was her time for herself. And in fact, I have a lot of clients like this where when they finally put the kids to bed, when they finally sit down because they've been so stressed, so overwhelmed all day long, they just want to shut off. And the wine, the cheese and cracker, the chips, it feels like their little reward for getting through the day. So if that's you, this is so common. 90% of my clients have some sort of nighttime snack or drink habit when we first start working together. And the goal isn't necessarily to completely eliminate this as a coping mechanism. So I want you to like feel relaxed in that. We don't have to completely get rid of this. The goal is just to give you some other tools in your toolbox to use in this moment so that it's not always your default. So if you want it, you can absolutely have it. But if you've decided, hey, this thing is really kind of holding me back from reaching my overall goals, it would be really helpful if I didn't default to this every single time. That's what we're trying to do in coaching. We're trying to give you some extra tools in this toolbox. So for this specific client who is turning to wine every single night, we started just by like bringing more awareness to it. Like, hey, when do you notice that this is popping up? How are you feeling when you're reaching for the wine? Why do you find yourself reaching for the wine? And again, she identified like, hey, this is kind of my time to relax. This is my time to unwind. Then we started practicing taking a pause. And there are lots of different strategies that we can use in this moment. And depending on why you're reaching for this thing and your individual circumstances, that's going to make a difference as to like which of these methods we try first. But for this client first, we just started with taking a pause. So when we get that initial urge to pour the glass of wine, can we pause? Can we sit in that feeling? Can we feel a little stressed without needing to do anything about it? Can we just be stressed? And maybe we start with a couple minutes and then we still go and pour the wine. Maybe then the next night we try to sit in it for 5 minutes and we try to sit in that stress. Then maybe we get up to 10 minutes of sitting in that stress. We're really just wanting to increase our discomfort tolerance. We're wanting to get more comfortable sitting in those stressful moments, sitting in those uncomfortable feelings. Eventually, this client got to a point where she stopped thinking about the wine because she would go a couple minutes and she would realize, oh, I actually don't even really want this. And just by taking that initial pause, she was able to get out of autopilot and realize, oh, I don't actually even want the wine. And now she's at the point where she's not even thinking about grabbing the wine. That's no longer her natural default. And that's typically the goal with a lot of these habits, is that eventually we get to a place where grabbing the food, grabbing the wine, it's just not our default anymore. We have all these other tools in our toolbox that we can turn to when we're feeling stressed, when we're feeling activated instead. So that's the two-prong approach. Either one, lower our stress overall, practice some of these new stress management techniques, or two, you use and develop some new coping mechanisms to use in these moments. Because if you are living in this constant state of stress and it's impacting your health and fitness goals, that is going to continue to be a problem. And like we talked about, macro tracking, calorie tracking, just setting a nutrition plan, it's not going to cut it. It's not going to get you out of this cycle. So one-on-one coaching would be the thing that does get you out of the cycle. That would be where we develop some of these other coping mechanisms. So if you are constantly feeling stressed and falling into these patterns, apply for one-on-one coaching in the show notes, shoot me a DM. Let's chat about it a little bit more. But your application assignment for this week, I want you to tell me which of these you're doing. If you're falling into stress overall, which of the two prongs are you going to do? Or are you going to do both of them? So are we going to lower our stress overall, or are we going to develop more tools to use in the moment? So that is all I've got for you guys. If you have any questions, as always, shoot me a DM. Shoot me that DM for your application assignment. So truly let me know which route you're going to take. I will talk to all of you guys in a couple weeks.